Aloha and welcome to Action Island. I am Gilles Gallant, and we are back for Monday Night Football between the Lions and the 49ers. And it is the final Action Island of the calendar year. I'm joined with my two favorite Islanders, Nick Giffen and Sean Koerner, the three of us. We're going to have two best bets for Monday Night Football. Here's how it works: two picks each from us. They'll be our best bets. Then we're going to vote on those picks. By the end of the show, we'll have a nice tropical three-leg same game parlay for you. But before we get into the picks, first up, if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for our annual subscription to Action Pro. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Koerner, other members of the Action Analytics team, along with the Anytime Touchdown Projections tool, which just continues to hit big winners. You also get access to our best spread, money line, and total bets, along with real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today. Use code ISLAND20 at sign up. One more time, that's ISLAND20 at sign up for $20 off. All right, gentlemen, we are back. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in like a while. I'm happy to bring us all back here. And Nick, you've got two picks for Monday Night Football. What are your two best bets for this game?
Yeah, well, before we get into the picks, I'm just going to say both of these, I'm going to give a little analysis before I give the picks. Both of these
Sure.
picks use the angle of Detroit starting with the ball first. We're going back to the coin toss well here. I
All
know we're
right.
0 for 4 on the coin tosses, which is really bad luck considering we should have been about 60% on each of these coin tosses. This is another spot where we'll be 60% on a coin toss here, at least. Uh, so San Francisco coach Kyle Shanahan has deferred 100% of the time as the 49ers head coach, that going all the way back to 2018. I couldn't find 2017 data, but all the way back to 2018, he has deferred 100% of the time. Dan Campbell with the Detroit Lions has deferred only 80% of the time, meaning he's chosen to receive 20% of the time. So when you work out a 50-50 coin toss and the probabilities of these guys deferring or not, Detroit should start with the ball 60% of the time. But I think this is a spot where Dan Campbell might just want to receive the ball even more here because of the situation, right? It's
Right.
technically a meaningless game for Detroit. So why not get your offense some points early, get up early so you have the chance to take it a little bit easier on your starters. I know it's still Dan Campbell. He says he wants to win and he wants to play all his starters, but if you give yourself a better chance of getting up earlier, I think that's what they want to do. So I think this could be as high as like 70% chance of Detroit starting with the ball. So with that said, my first of the two picks, I'm going to go with San Francisco in the third quarter, plus 1.5. You can get this minus 162 at FanDuel. Uh, Again, if Detroit is starting with the ball, then San Francisco will be starting with the ball in the second half, giving them the more likely opportunities, potential more possessions in the third quarter than the Lions. Plus, San Francisco is also the unlucky team in this matchup. This is the fourth largest luck gap of the week, according to our luck rankings. So, I do think this is a spot where you add that, Detroit's banged up on defense. Sure, I know San Francisco doesn't have Trent Williams, but I think this is a spot where San Francisco could at least play the Lions to an even score in the third quarter, especially if they have an extra possession. Also, having an extra possession, it's certainly possible San Francisco gets a field goal, Detroit gets a touchdown, San Francisco gets a field goal. So I do prefer the plus 1.5 to the plus half, which would be minus 142, something that like DraftKings. So try to get that plus 1.5 if you can. For the second pick, I'm going to go with a Gilles Gallant special touchdown bet, but I'm going to take Amon-Ra St. Brown for the
Hey,
first
Sun
touchdown.
God.
Yeah, first touchdown, 7-1. You can get that at DraftKings. I think BetMGM had 7-1. It may have just moved there. But either way, I actually show more value than Sean has the projections on the prop tool, and we only have it as minus 0.5% edge. I actually have him a little bit higher for first touchdown than Sean does. And I think if you add in the coin toss stats, even higher. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of all the Detroit pass catchers, I'm including the running backs, the tight ends, and the wide receivers, has the best coverage matchup based off of the opposing coverage schemes of all the Detroit pass catchers. So I think if there's going to be a first touchdown, it's obviously very highly likely to be Jahmyr Gibbs, but if not Jahmyr Gibbs, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has the next highest potential. So I like him to get the first touchdown in this game.
All right, so we've got a first touchdown bet all the way up to around 7 to 1 at DraftKings. It's around 600 plus 600 around FanDuel. But and again, I think you made a key point too about that San Francisco third quarter bet, just with the fact that you're getting the 1.5 at FanDuel as opposed to just the half point at DraftKings. So, Sean, we got to vote San Francisco third quarter plus 1.5, or we're going to take the Sun God Amon-Ra St. Brown for the first touchdown of the game at 7 to 1. Let's vote. All right, Sean, I can't help it. Nick was speaking my language. I'm going with the Sun God first touchdown at 7 to 1. I'm going crazy here. What do you got? Okay, you got San Francisco third quarter. So as a result, Nick, we're putting this on you. You have to pick what is going to be the first leg of the same game parlay.
All right. Well, I'm going to make Amon-Ra St. Brown my official Monday Night Football pick. But for the parlay, in case he doesn't get the first touchdown, I don't want to ruin the parlay right off the bat. So, I'm going to go with the third quarter plus 1.5 here. So that is going to be my parlay pick. It's not an official pick that I'm going to be tracking in the Action app and playing standalone. I like it as part of a parlay sweetener, if you will. So I'm going to go San Francisco third quarter plus 1.5 as the tie break.
Okay, so but I just still want to mention I do respect that you put the first touchdown bet out there for us to at least to choose, not trying to put out only just like a minus 130 or minus 110 kind of thing. Give us some options out here. So, okay, so that's all right. First leg of the same game parlay is going to be San Francisco to cover the third quarter at plus 1.5 or win it outright. But it is San Francisco third quarter plus 1.5. That's available at FanDuel. So Nick, you mentioned it. I like to bet touchdowns. I've got two touchdown bets for this game, one on each side. And first side, we're going to go with the Detroit Lions. I can't quit him. I'm going back to JMO. Jameson Williams for me at 2 to 1 is my favorite touchdown bet in this game. He's got 6 touchdowns this year. He has scored a touchdown now in each of the last 2 games. And Jared Goff has really been looking for him, especially over the last month. Over the last 4 games, 29 targets, 5 red zone targets. We mentioned about this Niners team and what their motivation is. Well, they are going to be missing some key starters. Dre Greenlaw will be out. No Charvarius Ward as well in the secondary. And the Niners, they do play a little bit more zone, and JMO does have 3 touchdowns versus zone defense this year, as opposed to just one versus man defense. So Jameson Williams for me is the Lions touchdown scorer that I like. On the Niners side, I'm channeling Nick here. I'm going for a little bit of a long shot. I like Ricky Pearsall to have a touchdown here. He's around 6 to 1 at FanDuel. It's a bit of an upside play. He saw 73% of snaps last week, and you're starting to see his target rate pick up as well in this offense. 4 targets in each of the last 2 games. And I think he could have a little bit more extra looks as well, especially if George Kittle may have to block maybe a little bit more as well, because the Niners are going to be missing some key offensive linemen like Trent Williams. I think they're missing their right tackle as well. So I think George Kittle will have to block a little bit more. I think as a result, he may not get as many targets, more for Pearsall. And again, if the Lions, they start fast, that could put the Niners in a trailing game script, which would then lead to more passing. So I just think the Niners are going to look for Pearsall a little bit more, especially because he was their first round pick. They weren't really able to use him that much this season. The season is pretty much in the toilet at this point. So I think they're going to try to find more looks for Ricky Pearsall to score a touchdown, and I think we should have him on the parlay. So you two can decide, do we put Jameson Williams on the parlay, or do we put Ricky Pearsall on the parlay for an anytime touchdown? So gentlemen, it's time to vote. All right, gentlemen, we going with the many men, Ricky Pearsall, or are we going to go with JMO? What are we looking at?
I mean,
Pearsall.
I love betting on Ricky in NASCAR, so I may as well bet on him in football too.
All right, so Ricky Pearsall, anytime touchdown at 6 to 1 is going to be the second leg of the same game parlay. That's going to be paired with San Francisco third quarter plus 1.5. So now it is Sean's turn. Sean, you have 2 prop picks for this game. What do you like?
Yeah. Yeah, so both of these props are 49ers players. I am not messing with the Lions tonight. They have basically nothing to play for. Like, I would not be shocked if they pull the starters, but we have no idea. So I got 2 49ers props. The first one is George Kittle under 5.5 receptions. Um, I know this is never fun, betting against an elite tight end, maybe potential Hall of Famer in George Kittle, but I think this is a tougher matchup for him because the Lions use man coverage at the highest rate in the league, so they've been very good against tight ends as a result. They rank second in DVOA. They've allowed the second lowest completion percentage to tight ends. Kittle himself, tends to thrive against zone coverage. He's averaged 3.1 yards per route run against zone, just 1.7 against man, so he's more human against man coverage. He has an 82% catch rate this season, which is pretty high, considering he does tend to see downfield targets. You'd expect it to be in the 70 to 75% range, so he's due for some, negative regression there. Obviously elite tight end, but this is a tougher spot. Again, Lions don't have much to play for here, so would not be shocked if the Niners pull off the upset. Hopefully they have a really good third quarter here, and play with the lead for most of the game. Don't have to throw as much, so that's why I like his under 5.5 receptions. He's a player I don't like to fade his receiving yards because he can rack up a ton on just a few catches. So I like the under angle here on his receptions. And for my other one, I'm going to go with the rookie here, Isaac Guerendo, over 63.5 rushing yards. He was removed from the injury report. He's been dealing with, foot and hamstring injury. So the fact that he was removed from the injury report, I think he's going to be closer to 100%. See his typical workhorse role. Kyle Shanahan tends to just want to lean on one running back. So I don't think we're going to see, too much of a committee here. But I love Guerendo. He was their fourth round pick. He missed most of training camp, so he hasn't seen that many reps. So he's only really played, the last couple games as a true workhorse back. I think he's going to get better as he gets more work over these final 2 weeks. He was an athletic freak. He's one of only 5 running backs that have had a perfect combine score since 2003. Two of those backs were Saquon Barkley and Chris Johnson, so he's in great company there. And this is a spot I think he's going to thrive on inside runs against this Lions defense. They've allowed a league high 15% explosive run rate on inside runs and a league high 2.4 yards before contact. And Guerendo's a back you don't want to give too much room to run. He's averaging 10.7 yards per run when he's seen at least 2 yards before contact. The only running back with a higher yards per rush on those types of runs is Saquon Barkley. So again, an athletic freak. So I think he's gonna, have a good game here. And again, we might be playing with a leading game script if the Lions do sit starters at some point. So love his upside here, and love the angle of just this being more of a run heavy game script.
Guerendo, I didn't realize he was going to be mentioned in the same company as Chris Johnson and Saquon Barkley, 2,000-yard rushers, and here we are now, fourth
He's
round pick.
a
It is
athletic freak. You better believe it. Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, so that's a pretty compelling case, and usually in this spot too, Sean likes to throw in these ladder spots. It sounds like I'm not saying putting words in his mouth, but I think he wouldn't mind if you ended up laddering it a little bit as well, closer to maybe even 100 rush yards or something like that. But either way, we're looking at over 63.5 rushing yards for Isaac Guerendo or George Kittle under 5.5 receptions. So Nick, we've got to vote: Guerendo over 63.5 rushing yards or George Kittle under 5.5 receptions. Let's vote. All right, Nick. Sean made a great case for Guerendo, but I'm going to fade Kittle in this spot and do the uncomfortable under 5.5 receptions. What are we doing here?
I'm gonna go with IG. By the way, my IG at Rotodoc. If y'all want to follow me on IG, I was actually gonna give out Guerendo if Sean didn't. So I love this one.
All right, well then, because we can't agree, Sean, we have to put the pressure on you now. You have to decide: would you like to take Guerendo or would you like to take George Kittle? What are you doing for the third leg of the parlay?
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. I gave out Guerendo as my official prop, specifically his longest rush to be over 14 and a half yards. So this is no-brainer. Let's go with his rushing yards. And yeah, this is one that is definitely ladderable. I think he breaks off a couple big runs here. And again, the Niners might win the game, so that would, give him even more upside. So this is an easy one for me, IG.
All right, so let's recap the parlay now because specifically why you should play it at FanDuel because you'll get that +1.5 for the third quarter. So again, it's San Francisco third quarter +1.5 with a Pearsall anytime touchdown with Isaac Guerrero over rushing yards, 61.5 rushing yards. You put all three of those together, that comes up to just under 13-1 at FanDuel. So we're going to try to go out with a bang here in 2024, hit a nice parlay before we move on to the playoffs. Nick, we talked about this before the show that you were feeling good about this parlay. What are you thinking of as far as the correlation goes and the odds, and how are we feeling about it going into Monday Night Football?
Yeah, well, I'm glad we picked all San Francisco things because I honestly don't know what Dan Campbell's going to do. Obviously, we know this is a meaningless game, so targeting the San Francisco side makes a lot of sense. Maybe Dan Campbell does play all his starters the whole game, but I think if Detroit gets off to a hot start and kind of gives their offensive players, I wouldn't say a rest, but maybe spells Jahmyr Gibbs a few extra times throughout the game, gives a couple of the tight ends extra looks instead of Sam Laporta. I think that's certainly a possibility, which should help keep San Francisco in it, giving them maybe a little bit more chance of getting that Pearsall touchdown, Isaac Guerrero rushing yards. So I don't know. I don't have any other particular reason. I just feel like this is going to hit. I just feel it.
I like those feelings, and then not only that, like Jared Goff, like we might see Hendon Hooker in this game before too long. Maybe even Teddy Bridgewater coming back after winning his high school state championship. Let's go over this parlay one more time. So it is San Francisco third quarter +1.5. Ricky Pearsall anytime touchdown and Isaac Guerrero over on his rushing yards. That comes out to just under 13-1 at FanDuel. So that's all for us. I want to thank you again for watching Action Island for Lions 49ers. And on behalf of Nick Giffen, Sean Koerner, I'm Gilles Gallant. Aloha and bon chance.